I hope you've already clapped, John. That's great.
No, I just now started recording.
Oh. So we didn't get the comment about dwarves being asexual.
Nope.
Now he claps.
Point to the idiots on the screen.
Just all of them.
And with that, welcome back, everybody, to Dungeon Brew. This is the Short Rest, episode 11, where we come together and talk about the last episode that we just played. We had our finale of the 9th Ascension. We had originally hoped for 12 sessions, but just had a natural ending point with 11. So we have completed our campaign. Hopefully it felt like a satisfying conclusion to everybody. I'm going to turn it over to you guys. Here we go.
I think I'd use Fireball.
I just want to say that fight at the docks was awesome.
I like to fight at the docks.
I liked, that as a conclusion, I feel like this is probably one of the most satisfying conclusions I've had for a D&D game.
Oh, definitely. Everyone was alive. Everyone was on the same side.
There were it was brief. It was brief, but there were endpoints for everybody. There was movement. Mm-hmm. This person is doing this. This person is doing that, and that is always good.
Yeah, there was a good wrap up, good closure for every character.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't always have to be great, but it was good closure.
Yes,
mm-hmm. It was satisfying. It was a satisfying ending.
Yes, very satisfying.
I have
well
to
done,
admit,
Josh.
Thank you. I spent a lot of time on the story and building it out from beginning to end. So I imagine that folks will watch back through it and they'll find loose ends or plot holes or maybe things that we didn't explain as well. But I hope for the most part, it feels pretty satisfying in regards to how D&D stories go. But I was surprised because I actually expected Jason to sacrifice 𝐥𝐤𝐤𝐞 at some point, if not killing himself in the battle on the docks. I really thought that you were going to use enough magic to just obliterate the situation in the home and die for Dawn. And so I kind of applaud you at holding back on that. I saw that happening with your character.
I expected it too.
Big finale.
I was waiting for it. So
I don't know what I would have done had the mom been savable, or had Need gotten to that point, it would have happened. It probably would have happened.
Dorfe had Need covered.
Right.
It seemed.
I didn't expect Dorfe to do that, though.
Me either. Did anyone expect that?
Nope. I did not expect Dorfe to help at all.
So, yeah.
So there's a reason why he does that.
Because he wants to go with me.
Because of Need, I imagine.
But why does he need Need alive?
Yeah, because of the events of the book. Because Marina told him that Need needs to be alive. Yes. Which I objectively know that, but Dawn does not, which is why Dawn was like, yes, you can travel with us. You have done, you've proved to me that you're good intentions. But Dawn is not the most, he doesn't have the best judgment of character, I don't think. So I don't think that he was really aware of any ulterior motives that Dorfe had at that time.
Yeah. So this is a spoiler for those that have not read the books, but essentially Dorfe is guided by Marina to sacrifice Need with a magical dagger that is created to open up the netherworld as a guidance from the Frozen Witch. This is something that he is asked to do. So he is listening to his goddess's direction of keeping Need safe up until the point in time that she is supposed to be sacrificed.
Man, so the dagger I made can open the netherworld, huh?
No, it's another dagger.
It's another dagger.
It's different dagger, but I really enjoyed the parallel there at the end, where you gave him the dagger.
Mm-hmm.
That was a nice
now
little,
how do you feel?
Callback.
Well, it's not the same dagger, so I feel fine.
There's time that has to pass first, because essentially what Dorfe does is he takes Need and he takes Dawn, and they go and they stay in the Dying Air for a while, where they live out in ruins that were once owned by the 𝐸vil. So they spend quite a bit of years there surviving before they ever move off to Kalamar, which is mentioned in Melkorka about Dorfe's time there and how he spends time there with those that were sent off from 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸. But that's where Don ends up spending most of his time at and ends up residing at.
Yeah.
Anyway,
is Don alive during the events of the books?
No, he's not.
Okay. No. I couldn't remember on that.
Is that something that you have determined, like, how he died?
I don't. I never did determine how that happened. Yeah. Something to flesh out.
Yeah. I would imagine 𝐸𝐸𝐸 killed him.
Sequel campaign.
Probably.
New campaign.
That would make sense.
Yeah. You thought it was dead. You went to go suck it off, and then nope, it wasn't.
Yeah, I played with the idea because there's the individual who actually oversees the ruins, that actually being Don, who takes on a different name, and it's the head that 𝐸𝐸𝐸 goes after that he uses in 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 to get his youth back, is essentially going and retrieving Don's head, but it means that Don took on a different name.
Yeah.
Later on, but anyway, I digress. But it's very interesting some of the parallels that happened and how well like things kind of fit together and all of that.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, you know, solid story. I felt the end was good.
I really wanted to kill Karina.
I wanted.
I did not like her.
𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 just wanted one night with her.
No.
I don't want to distract too much, but I do feel some vindication in knowing that 𝐸𝐸𝐸 was actually involved in the murder.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? You were saying that last week.
Yeah. Yep, you were right all along. You weren't wrong in it.
I mean, I wasn't surprised by it, but I didn't think he was a part of it.
Who was involved in the murder? Like 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸, we know. Who else?
And it was
Serena and 𝐥𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸, right?
Serena. 𝐥𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 wasn't at all.
It was just 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 and Serena.
Oh, okay.
And Serena. Yeah, it was 𝐥𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 and Serena. They had different reasonings behind why they were involved in it. 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 essentially promised Serena like helping her son get advancement to keep their family safe. But Serena all along was actually part of the part of the Ninth Council. She was just kind of playing her part out and getting her son into power and trying to get access to the 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 you were making as well. As was Dragoslav, who was working with her to get that. They were both like working together, but working against each other. And 𝐸𝐸𝐸 found out about it, so he started turning them against them and taking out his own enemies at the same time.
Now, was Serena she was the one that initially pointed 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 to watch the group for a rat, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so she was sowing her own discord there.
Yeah. She was keeping the eyes off of her by trying to get him to look at you guys. If things didn't go well, she had somebody to point the finger.
I don't think anyone didn't think that she was fishy as fuck from that.
Yeah.
No.
So why would she want to help with the book? Why not just...
It was just a thing of power that she could then give to her son.
Yeah, okay, whoever has the book has power.
So she wanted it made and then given to her son, basically. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Did 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 ever tell her where the book ended up after it was created?
No, because she died the night before it was made. She was
so.
That's right.
I think Joshua
judgment was passed on her. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it would be helpful to explain what the 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 actually is and what it does, because even though we spent all the effort to like make it and create it, I don't think that anyone probably
none of us know what it is.
Know what it is, or what it's capable of, or why it's important.
So the 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 is like 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 of all these ancient blood magic spells and histories related specifically to Koldastavo and magic as it's related to Marhina, as well as telling the history, or at least the warped history, of Marhina being the purveyor of magic to the �ฑ people. And so it has all of these different elements that allow them to like essentially suck off dragons in order to get additional magic pieces, right? or to enhance their own magical prowess, or to be able to do things that are beyond the scope of what most �ฑ can do with their magic. But the big piece of it is that it does retell the history of the �ฑ people as being descendant or having their magic given to them by Marhina, which is actually not true. �ฑ actually used to be wardens of the ash tree with the 𝐵UKHARI, and they protected the ash tree with the 𝐵UKHARI, and their magic came from Vlolos. But they were persuaded by Marhina to change allegiance, and they moved away from the 𝐵UKHARI, and some of the 𝐵UKHARI sided with the 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤 and became the 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐞 that you guys fought in this final episode. These warped creatures, these werewolves, couldn't shift back. And the rest of the 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤s became cursed with aging whenever they cast magic. And eventually will become poisoned with like madness the older they get because of the tainted magic of Marhina that flows through their veins that was originally that of Wolos. So what Dorothy does is he essentially twists all the history of where 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤s come from and gives it towards Marhina instead of Wolos.
So is that when they discovered some of those books and they found that they'd been altered or there were things?
Yep. Yeah, if you guys had dug into it more and started like really researching it, then you'd been like, oh, we're not actually Marhina's children. We're Wolos' children. We're actually Wardens of the Ash Tree. The 𝐵ukari are actually our brothers and sisters that we're fighting against.
So when like Karina or people from the Ninth Council, when they cast magic, are they casting from Marhina or from Volos?
It's actually from Marhina, but the original magic is from Volos. So 𝐷𝐨𝐲 comes from Volos, but Marhina taints it with her death magic.
I just didn't know what the Ninth Council tried to switch back to.
I know I'm giving you guys way more history than we unraveled in the game.
That's okay.
That's
the point of this.
Yeah, that has to do with some of the initial councils that took place at Iri, which is the city of the gods, was showing this separation. Where the 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤s took one direction and the 𝐵ukari took another, and Volos rejected the 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤s and refused to accept them back. So this is what we see playing out in Anarfell and throughout the series, is that even though the 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤s now worship Volos and they call themselves dragon men, they're not accepted back into Volos' embrace.
So they're cursed regardless of whatever they do.
Yeah, exactly. They're cursed regardless. Okay. And so that's also part of the reason why Dagmar in the thing goes to go kill Volos, because they won't accept him back. He's like, we're just going to kill the god of the dead and we'll be immortal and the curse will be lifted. But it's not. It just brings on additional damnation. Which is what happens in the books.
Mihail's son is Dagmar.
That's Mihail's son. Yeah. Mihail's son sends his sons to go kill Volos in the books. And it just almost brings the world to the brink of destruction.
Yeah. Great job, Mihail.
Yes, raise him right.
You kind of stunk as a general. Oh.
Yeah, Mihail gives his son the book of 𝐴rkaloch, and you see him utilizing it throughout the story.
You're about as good as a general as I am at swinging my axe.
And now all you guys know the insanity of my mind when I put stories together.
No, it's good. I like it.
The only problem I have is how many people end up surviving.
I will say
half the town's dead.
Yeah, you guys pointed this out several times, which in regards to world building, I'd have to go back and rethink about how I did it, because this much of the town cannot be destroyed for you guys to even last another summer. And so
if we're losing 2/3 of our military every summer, we're not going to survive as a population.
You're going to recruit those dwarves.
Make a lot of stone babies.
Those dwarves were awesome.
Yeah, typically, Typically, I wouldn't think you guys would lose 2/3 of your population, but the general and his tactics just
terrible, absolutely terrible.
Hey, I didn't have the final call. That was all Gabriel's.
Which, I mean, arguably this summer was a harder summer, and so the 𝐵ukari aren't able
with
to
the
attack.
coup and everything. Yeah,
the 𝐵ukari in subsequent years aren't able to levy such large forces against us, and so there's a period of recovery or something like that occurs.
Yeah, and it could be one of those things where there's 5 years of peace or 10 years of peace as people not necessarily called out, but as they try to recuperate forces and then launch another big attack.
Yeah,
both sides got bloodied real bad, so they take time to lick their wounds.
Yeah, it's kind of like the 100 Years' War. That was not just constant battle where people were dying constantly. It was just a perpetual state.
It was war, but no battles.
Constant skirmishing and such.
I think you're also missing out. Some of the 𝐵ukari, when they came and saw the Voklar and how cool they were, man, let's switch to Marhina so we could be like that. And so there's some tension there. Some of them are switching, turning into the werewolves.
Yeah, naturally.
I mean, yeah.
They're over there going, man, that's badass.
I know.
I wouldn't mind being a werewolf.
That one guy on the dock that we never saw, he just jumped back in the water, swam back, said, I'm with Marhina!
and then drowns.
I actually technically aged again during that last fight, maybe twice.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not real sure there.
Yeah.
You should roll to see if you get another charisma.
Because I
Does
burned.
Don die?
I rolled you a 3.
That's charisma.
I rolled you a 3 and a 3 there for you, John.
Okay, so Dex and charisma again, fantastic. Or no, con and charisma, I guess.
Con and charisma.
Yeah, con and charisma.
But yeah, I had a horrible time trying to get my intelligence up. My wisdom and charisma kept going up. I started with an 8 charisma, ended with an 11.
I had a hell of a time getting my constitution to stay high.
My rolls actually didn't end up that bad.
Man,
I ended up with a pretty average spread.
You did, but like Jason, like his just were all constitution, and if he had ended up with a little bit more even of a spread across,
see, that's strength. You'd have been fine for another 8.
Hey, see,
yeah, he would have been fine.
That'd have been fun. Damn it!
I will say
I could use that fireball.
You could have.
I not only really like the magic system, but I like that you guys got to a point to use some more powerful spells in this last campaign.
Like the last session or two. Yeah.
It was the last fight and such, so I felt pulling out the big mana spells was worth it.
Every spell I cast was big mana, except, well, I guess at the beginning of the docks, I started out a little bit slower because I was like, I really shouldn't be burning through all this mana. I have this big trip ahead of me, and so I was trying to be a little bit more conservative. And then at a certain point, I was like, screw it. But then when I went in and found Dragoslav with the mother and the daughter, it was like every spell was as high a spell as I could cast. Like as much damage as I could possibly do. I was actually very surprised that he survived not only the first, but the second attack that I did against him because of the sheer carnage that would have occurred from what it is that I chose to do to that man.
Yeah, like his arm would have been meat after 12 seconds.
Yeah.
I know I bolstered him a little bit, but I wanted you just to shit yourself a little bit when you walk in and see the scene and then have to combat him one-on-one, not knowing if people were going to show up.
It definitely surprised me. I was not expecting that. I was definitely expecting, which is crazy because right before that, like when we were talking right after the docks fight, I was like, do I even need to mess with my mana stuff? And you were like, yeah, you do. And I was like, okay. And then for some reason, there was like this cognitive dissonance between that moment and the moment that I was like, okay, I have to go say goodbye to my family. And I was like, oh, Joshua's decided not to worry about any other additional like combats type stuff. And I walked in the door and I was like, well, shit. So I'm just really glad that I had drank the quaff because I was burning through mana at that point. I was casting 4 mana per turn. So I think it was 3 rounds of combat, but I basically burned through 12 mana just during that combat alone.
Yeah. That cope is dangerous.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I really want to revisit this system without the age restriction.
I do too.
Well, I think if you it'd be interesting if you put something in place like when you use the mana that after so much you almost have to make a roll of like exhaustion or something that like there could be a cost. And so if you spend a whole bunch of mana and you use it all of your mana that day, you're just going to be exhausted even the next day of trying to recover. Or maybe there's only so much you recover with a rest and not all of it. So if you expend it all, you're going to be weaker even the next day.
I think like we're talking like 5e like rule set, like you do a mana and then you have to roll and if you fail the roll you get 2 exhaustion points because that way you're getting disadvantage on everything because first level exhaustion's kind of, at least in 5e, is kind of BS, right? I think something like that would work well.
See, I inherently disagree with taking a class feature such as spells and setting a detriment to it for the character to use it. If you want to limit it, give them like half the mana so they can't use it as much.
Sure.
But don't punish the character. Because like 𝐸 was literally 1 roll away from dying for using his abilities. Yeah. And I disagree with doing that as
I get it.
Like for a character.
And I get it from a standpoint though, because if you don't have certain limitations, like at level 6 in almost any 8 in any edition, you get to that level, you're just like, if there's no limit, you're just gonna blow everything up, right? So you
Well, I'm
gotta
not
you have to
saying
have
there's
limits to
no
bring it
limit.
back, but
I was gonna say, like,
Okay.
I of course like doing this because it's my story that I tell, but I agree with you, Greg. Like, you can just have mana in a system, but you shouldn't have access to, like, I can just cast 3rd level spells and use my mana. You're then limited by what spell ranks you actually have, which is what
right. Which part of what we did with this game, you ended up giving us a lot more mana and a lot more spells than we should have had.
Yeah.
Basically,
like, we just had huge lists of spells and stuff. Which that wouldn't work in a regular game.
Like, our mana wasn't excessive. It was the amount of spells we had access to, because because Jason had access to things like fireball and healing spells, which is just not something that you ever get in a
That's true
game.
too. Yeah, there'd be limitations in that regard.
So, like, it was basically a cost of an expanded spell list.
Almost. Yeah, so I'm saying, if you're just using a mana system where you're, like, taking away the expanded spell list and you're only having your limited spells that you get within each level, like, those are the natural barriers that work there that would have, I think, probably helped that out. And you could just run a mana system. But I will tell you, like, from the way that we were running it, I'm really glad I kept you guys at 6th level and lower, because I could not balance encounters after that level.
Yeah, because some of that shit was crazy.
Yeah.
Well, at a certain point, ℜ***'r would become irrelevant. Like, if we were to hit 10th level with 40 mana, just dropping fireballs and shit all day, doing 6 to 8 D6s, any kind of melee character against that is just gonna, not do shit.
I think you're really underestimating me, but
which is, to be fair, true of almost every single edition of Dungeons and Dragons.
Martial classes in and of themselves.
That is true. Yes.
Wait a minute. What do I get at level 10?
I do want to say that, and I imagine there's some cool stuff in there, but I was glad to see that some of Todd's stuff came online too, like with his attack and that type of thing.
That whirlwind was devastating there at the end.
Which he also had a thing that if he hit 12 HP, he would immediately got 12 bonus HP as well for his, like, primeval will.
Right.
One of the abilities that he has. So he would have started having a lot of additional things that would kept him up in battle. But you guys also started just, like, casting spells that he couldn't go down.
Well, and that actually is kind of the point I was going to make next, is I'm a little disappointed that I didn't have the opportunity to buff 𝐿***'r more. It kind of occurred to me, like, towards the end there, I was like, oh, I can just give him temp HP through, like, the stone spell thing. And then it's like, why am I not just, like, turning his axe into this flaming axe? Or something else, to where it's just, like, he's constantly just, like, blasting through people with this. And we just never did it.
You guys could have, Mihail could have cast Longstrider on him and had him just bolting around the battlefield.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but again, that limitation.
It really seemed like he needed
I thought about that weapon. Like, I did that in the first episode. I cast, my crossbow bolts had radiant damage on them due to, like, magic weapon or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? And I thought about it. And I thought about it in those fights against those at the wharf. I was like, well, shit, we could just 2 mana and enchant our weapons with fire damage, right? And poof. But I was like, well, I don't want to spend 2 fucking mana for that.
I don't know.
I spent 5 mana to buff everyone's AC, but that was everyone.
Had 5 mana to spend.
You had it. You just had the chance to die.
I don't know. I have to say that I like that you guys were limited and always had that, like, decision making.
I enjoyed it. I think it's.
I enjoyed the game.
I enjoyed it. Yeah.
With what we were playing, the restrictions made sense, and I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I feel like doing this without those restrictions is just going to be a total power for a party.
Yeah, I feel like, Greg, almost what you're after is you're, like, basically saying, I want to play, like, I enjoy 3.5, but I want to play a Gestalt game. Like, I want to try.
I would love to play a Gestalt game.
Yeah, but that's kind of what
that's hard to get a table around.
It's so hard.
Actually, what I'd like to see with this system is take the mana, like the mana points, and rather than having any spells, just take that chart that we had. You spend this much mana for this kind of effect. Then there's no spells, you make up what you want as you go, and then, play it that way.
Which is basically, I was telling Joshua that the other day. I was like, I think that the only spell I ever cast off of my list was Wither and Bloom. I never accessed my spell list for anything. Well, and Fireball. I guess I was casting Fireball. But I would have cast Fireball even if Fireball wasn't on the list, to be honest. But it was basically like those were the only 2 spells I ever cast off of my list. Everything else that I cast was something that I made up on the fly based off of like what was going on in either the environment or the combat session or whatever. And I had a blast with that. I had so much fun just being able to say, I want to throw this wall down on top of them. I want to lift the flagstones up and pelt people with it.
Yeah, it really gives you more personalization for the character and what they do. Like the spells that I used the most were Josh's illusion spells. You know, your dragon breath, your dragon bite, that dragon scale at the end. I really enjoyed those and the flavor that they provided.
Yeah.
All I got to do was swing an axe, okay?
I was going to say, Eric, what spells did you cast?
Hey, you got to kill a dragon, you know?
It was a baby one.
You still killed one.
You got to kill a baby.
In truth, all the dragons you guys fought were babies.
Yeah, we never got anywhere.
Yeah, we couldn't take
the
on
gold one. The gold one.
This is true.
The gold one, the gold one and the red one. The red one we didn't actually kill, right?
Right. Yeah, he flew away. I appreciate, Todd, that you played the big beefy character in this instead of having a magic user, because I think it required a lot more out of you in terms of just fitting into the story and finding motivation to keep moving forward. I know we talked about this before, but I think that's a challenge when you have 3 magic users in your party and you're sitting back there and be like, playing that system, I just get to run around and swing an axe.
Yeah, which is kind of why I was saying, like, I really wish that I had invested more mana into just beefing up Eretmir, because I think that not only would I have enjoyed that, just doing that from that perspective, but I think that it would have made Eretmir that much more effective for, like, what it is that he could have done in a lot of those combats.
And support sucked, Eretmir.
Yeah, I know. Now I'm going to hear how bad I am. Eretmir's roast.
In those fights, like, I didn't even... Like, aside from healing, you know, and I guess I threw out, like, Shield of Faith and stuff like that, but I didn't even think of... And maybe it's because I had the spell list. Maybe that's part of my problem. Like, I looked at the spell list and, like, all right, this is my tools. This is my utility. Whereas, had the spell list not been there, like, you could do Elemental and you can heal. That's your rail.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would, because, like, using the stone to give him temp HP, it was like, well, fuck, I didn't even think of that, you know?
Yeah, I didn't either. That was genius.
Shield of Faith, right? Like, that's my bread and butter when it comes to that, you know, that sacred cleric class, but I didn't even think of stone or anything like that to buff an individual. You know, theoretically, you could,
to be fair, I mean, I helped Joshua write some of the books in there, so...
sure.
You know.
I mean, and that is true, but I think the genius of it, the beauty of that kind of system, and having, you know, the mana to use, and then on top of that, you can... all of your mana casters are more support, and they can be, because you can... Like somebody in Eretmir's case, you can just buff them to the teeth and let them go nuts, right? I mean, you could have done Longstrider, you could have done Haste, you could have done, you know, that Stone Skin version of what you did.
Yeah.
And Eretmir's a freaking walking bulldozer.
I just wonder how much it's gonna like be like a psychological effect when he's like having all this thing done to his body, and he's, you know, he's got scales and stone, and all of a sudden he bursts in flames, and he's just like, "What the hell's going on?"
Lose his body autonomy.
It's my body. Quit doing stuff to me.
Yeah,
you get no choices with your body.
Right?
I will say, in the regard to buffing, like as a party, I see the value in it, but I didn't see any of our characters really having the personality to do that.
True.
Like 𝐥𝐤𝐤, maybe because he was the healer and the priest, but he was more healing. right?
Well,
He wasn't
but
like
given
enchanting or a buffer.
Right, and I'm thinking like outside this story, right?
Yeah.
In this story, you're absolutely right. Like, would 𝐸𝐤𝐤 have wasted the mana on, especially given what he doesn't have the ability to regain life, right? Like Dawn did.
Mm-hmm.
Would I have done that? Probably not, because there were multiple times I went, well, I could heal, or I can do damage. Like, I'm not going to do both, but I can do one or the other. So it would have been, could I buff? Like when there were a couple times I casted Shield of Faith on, or a version of that, right? Or a reaction on 𝐿. It's like, well, I could do that, or I could heal. Well, knowing my heals, because they're always ones or twos, I'll just do the reaction roll and call it good.
Which damage in general is more effective than healing in most TTRPGs anyway.
Usually,
yeah.
If you're eliminating enemies, then you're eliminating the damage that's coming in, and then you don't need to heal.
Usually,
is kind of the idea. But like what you're talking about is definitely where I see what Greg was talking about earlier, like removing that age restriction makes the casters feel more free to use their mana in a less selfish way. Like that's kind of the unintended effect of going, well, there's this aging process, and it makes me go, well, when I use mana, I only want to use it for things that I want to use it for and not use it for other people.
Well, that's kind of ingrained in the 𝐸𝐤𝐤 society, isn't it?
No, which is great. Like, that's what's really cool about it, is because the magic system reinforces the society and vice versa. But if we're talking about like what Jason was talking about, going, well, outside of this world, outside of this, particular game that we're playing, that's where we get into the situation where it's like we're casting magic for other people, and we're doing things that allow
you can
us
have
to
a true support class.
People. Yeah, you can have a support.
Yeah. Yeah.
Josh, you need to run the system again.
I enjoyed doing it. It's fun watching how you guys. I know that this system requires a lot of imagination and some familiarity. So after you've played through it once, I think that you can go back to it again and be like, "Oh, here's some all this stuff I can do." Like I'm most familiar with void magic stuff because all the characters I primarily write use void magic. I have some of the other ones, but void is primary. But like even from a hail, like I would have been dragging Todd around the battlefield between time and space and using him as a shield between people attacking me. Like I would. If I
had the mana and didn't get paid, I totally would have done that shit.
I've been like, oh fuck, fireball! I'm gonna pull the 𝐸𝐸𝐼 of me like a shield and block myself from whatever.
𝐿 was concerned about like having too many buffs on him. Just imagine how he would have felt if he would have just been used as a literal meat shield.
Yeah, literally.
Fucking dimension door, dropping that giant all over the battlefield.
Well, it goes back to that you guys are primarily evil characters that are out for your own like.
Yeah, like the system really reinforced to use it on yourself.
Yeah,
for the mana.
And if 𝐿 survived, if 𝐿 would have survived, I'm sure it would be one of those things where revenge is a dish best served cold. Like
he makes a hell of a poison.
Yeah,
he really does.
Want a drink?
Here's the bottle of wine that he was just giving out like left and right. It's like, oh, that one's got poison in it. You're screwed now.
Every third bottle kills someone.
Yeah, I wanted to like talk about the books too, but I know you guys haven't read them. But 𝐿, which is one of the profane users that's in the books in Death at Dusk, he does some crazy shit. Like he summons demons to fight for him in the middle of battle, which is a lot of fun to utilize too. Like there's just like crazy stuff you can do. Like he brings the Noon Wraith, which I'm sure people are familiar with, out of like The Witcher. But that also exists in my world. I'd written this book before I ever knew that was something that The Witcher did. But he like pulls a Noon Wraith out to like completely just mind fuck with people and send them through all sorts of different experiences while it's sapping them of energy. It's a lot of fun to like think about all the different things you can actually do once you're completely just enveloped in this mythology, in this world, and the things that you have access to. Which I know you guys aren't privy to all of that just because the world's foreign in of itself.
Yeah, which there's some expansion there. It's the same thing, with primal or profane or sacred, like all of those. If you kind of like throw yourself deep into what is encompassed within that magic, I think you can get really creative with the options available.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Like, I have a couple summon spells besides even that shadow one I use at the end there. And I would have loved to be able to spend the mana to just rip a hole in reality and have some kind of abomination pop out and start eating people.
Yeah. Yeah, the primal magic of it. I was just gonna say the primal magic users are actually those that are closest to the Vucari, which is why they utilize that magic. The Vucari can fully shift into creatures, but primal magic users can like turn their arm into a bear claw, or they can have bark skin go down their body. I mean, they can, or things along those lines that are closer to the Vucari and their use of 𝐾𝐨𝐲.
Well, and even I think that Todd mentioned this or something, like having the bear skin like turn into an actual bear in the middle of the room. Like,
yeah,
that makes me really want to have like primal magic.
Yeah, right.
In some of those instances, that would have been awesome.
Well, imagine in the forest when we were attacking Gabriella with primal magic. Like she tried to have the trees attack us, but imagine doing that right back at her.
Yeah,
and just flaying her with trees. That would be awesome.
Or you're both casting spells and you both just stand around and watch your trees fighting like champions for you. Who's going to win? I don't know.
You ever been slapped by a naughty pine before?
Oh my!
Excellent.
So he doesn't like the dwarfs. He likes the pines.
So what's next, Josh?
That's Todd. I think Todd's next for the campaign that we'll maybe have starting this fall.
Yep.
You have like a little tidbit teaser for the short rest?
Oh, man. So, yeah, you will be investigators. It'll be in the Call of Cthulhu game set. And you are going to be looking after a magical artifact that I kind of created in a different storyline, but it's called the Book of Thoth. And so you'll be trying to find out this artifact and understand what it does.
I'm really excited about this system. It's one that I've been looking at for a really long time that I haven't had the opportunity to play in, and I'm excited.
It's fun. It is. Like I really, we've been playing in it, Todd and I and another guy for a couple months now. It's a lot of fun. I do enjoy it.
I've always wanted to try it. I'm a sucker for anything Cthulhu, so I've been real interested to get into this kind of game setting.
And one of the things with it is that combat is more tricky because you can't just run into combat because there are creatures out there that you can't do anything to. So sometimes it's finding other ways or figuring out something different that.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have Josh in the party, so he thinks in all twisty kinds of ways. We'll be fine.
I do. Yeah, he do. All the pressure's on you, Josh, to figure shit out.
Man. I'm gonna get us all killed. I'm like, this is gonna be a determination of how good of detectives we are. We all die in session.
Oh, I am so gonna end up with a tentacle beard by the end of it.
I've tried.
Hey, we got to see your twisted mind. Now you're going to see my twisted mind.
I'm joining the cult. I'm putting that in there now.
All right. Well, I guess that's a wrap then for us on this episode of The Short Rest. So thank you guys for hanging out with us and seeing our sessions through, the short rest through. And we will see you guys again next time. Hit the like and subscribe button. Makes complete sense. Greg, do you want to comment again on the sexual activities of...
Well, it doesn't work now that we don't have
gone
a picture.
now. You can't do it.
It doesn't work now that we don't have a picture. Yeah, we've been looking at sexual images, pornographic images.
I know, this sounds really bad right now.
It's what he has on his screensaver. Okay?
Sounds even better. Let's just keep it going.
Consider that everyone around the table is a he. I think we need to be more specific about who has that.
Sorry. John.
There is
nothing on his desktop.
There is nothing sexual. It is a fully armored, either dark iron or Duergar dwarf as a background.
It's dark iron. The armor world. Never mind.
Yeah, but the point is that there's nothing sexy about it. There's no sex involved.
Beg to differ, but that's fine.
I just love how we at one point asked what level of show this would be available for, and was like, "Oh, it's family friendly" or something like that. And
I don't know who the
nothing inappropriate has been said.
I never said family friendly. I said you could let your kids watch it.